And I'm going to invite my friend Grant, wherever he is in the room right now, to join us on stage. Because it occurs to us that not everybody starts in the same place on a morning like this. I'll tell you a little bit of my history with Compassion in just a little bit. But I have the advantage of kind of having some pre-knowledge, and Grant's going to help us get caught up. If you need, no, I got one for you right here. It's going to get caught up. This is Grant. Everybody say hi to Grant.
Hi, everybody.
Grant's job is to catch us up, okay? So Grant, if there was one thing you'd want our church to know about Compassion Canada, what would it be?
Well, first of all, let me just thank you, Tim, for inviting us here today. My good buddy, Tim Neufeld, and Strider. I haven't seen Matt for years, so it's great to see him. What a beautiful morning. What beautiful singing. And what a beautiful name. So thanks for sharing that with us. What would I want the church to know? You know, if only you knew the impact that the church in Canada is making around the world with partnerships and sponsorships in the 29 countries that we work in as Compassion and the ministries that we have. Serving alongside over 8,600 frontline church partners. Your support has a huge impact. And you know, we've seen this past year, over 105,000 kids are sponsored by Canadians. And what we are really excited about is the engagement that Canadians have. And so almost 100,000 letters have been sent to children across the world. And that just means so much to them. For them to understand that there's people that they don't even know on the other side of the world that care for them. That is huge. And then all the programs that we run with education and water and sanitation and hygiene, food programs. We have a survival program. It's about moms and babies. And you've seen that, Tim, recently, and I'm sure you'll comment on that too. These are giving hope and life to people around the world.
I suppose one thing wasn't a fair question anyway because you guys do so much.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Yes.
That's okay. That's all right. Okay, so answer me this. Listen, like for a long time, we've been hearing about child sponsorship from lots of different organizations. And maybe sometimes it feels a little bit like, oh, is it still that? Tell me why child sponsorship still matters in 2025.
Well, it's just such a foundational program. And, you know, child development programs work. They really do. You know, through the 80s and 90s and the work that was being done, we saw infant mortality rates drop in half by the work of child development programs. And then COVID came along and left its mark on this world. And post-pandemic, we saw things like a global food crisis hit, and it wiped out 20 years of work that had been accomplished. And really kind of knocked the breath out of any momentum that we had. But for those of us that are in this work, for those of us at Compassion and other organizations, we're saying not on our watch. And we can see this spiral kicked and go back the other way. So we're trying to regain that momentum. And, you know, when we see things like global food crises and pandemics, children are disproportionately affected by those types of things because they're at the bottom of the food chain and everything gets pushed down to them. So if we can start with the children, build into their lives, healthy minds, healthy bodies, translates to healthy communities and healthy countries. So that's where we're going with this.
Wow, that's huge. Half. Infant mortality rates in half.
We had cut them in half, and you know, now we're we're trying to regain that momentum.
It feels like that's everybody's story, right? Yeah, but then COVID, right?
Yeah. It's the same with the church and everything else. Like as you work in your community here, like I'm sure you've had to hit reset. Right?
I can't tell you how many times people have said, we used to do that thing. Why don't we do that anymore? And the answer is, well, COVID came, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're all in the same boat. Compassion is, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but in my mind, a very distinct and unique child sponsorship organization. Can you tell me what makes Compassion unique?
Yeah, and you commented earlier, there's great organizations doing great work around the world. What our distinctives are really this. We call them the 3 C's of compassion. The first is that we're Christ-centered. In our logo it says, releasing children from poverty in Jesus' name. That's not just a slogan. Like, we mean that. And so we're motivated by the Great Commandment, to love and to serve, and the Great Commission. So we're Christ-centered. Child-focused is the second C. That's pretty obvious. Our foundation is a child development program, so we're child-focused. But as I mentioned earlier, the best way to fight against poverty is to invest in the children, in the future of those countries. And we're church-driven, and this is strategic. We believe that the church is God's tool to create healthy communities, and all of our initiatives and programs are operated through the local church in partnership with the local church. In fact, you probably never saw a compassion sign when you were on the trip to the DR with us. It's because it's all about the local church, and it's about empowering the local church to be the local church, to provide a place that children can come and be nurtured, and be known, and be loved, and be protected. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Grant, I'm going to dismiss our kids at this
Sure.
time, okay, and let them toddle off, and I'm going to give you an escape route, too.
Can I take this with me?
You can take that with you. Yeah, absolutely. You can't keep it, though. I need it back. It's rather expensive. So if you are a child in between the ages of grades 1 through 7, this is your opportunity to skedaddle. And guys, hey, this morning, while they're doing that, listen, I'm just going to give you all an opportunity to say hi to somebody you haven't had this chance to say hi to before. We don't always do it, but let's do a 2-minute mingle, okay? And I'll come back and start the message once you guys have finished being friendly. Man, are you guys friendly this morning? Goodness gracious. It's so cool to see people making connections and taking time to say hi. I kind of want to pick up a little bit where Grant just left off. And hopefully if, this is your first time, maybe this is your first time hearing us say this, but if you've been around here for a little bit, hopefully you know that we aspire to be a come as you are church. Part of our vision is to be a place where anyone, wherever they are on their spiritual journey, can come and ask their questions, express their doubts, and have a safe place to connect. And we hope that this is a place that facilitates change. Because one of the beautiful things about the message of Jesus is that we all can admit, hey, none of us are perfect, right? Sometimes we say there's no perfect people allowed here. It's the only proviso we put on not being able to come to church at Burnett Church. If you're perfect, that's amazing. We're not. I'm not, right? This isn't the place for perfect people. And that's how our mission and the mission of Compassion tie into one another. Because we're about helping people change, but change in a very specific way. Jesus is our guiding light. We believe that in Jesus, humanity found a new and better way. And so many of the people sitting in the seats, not everyone, and that's okay, that's actually how it's supposed to be, but many of the people in the seats have decided that they believe in Jesus and have given their life to following him, to trying as best they can, empowered by the Spirit of God, to grow and to change into a person that looks more and more like Jesus every day. And that work, sometimes we call it discipleship. That's the only job the church has. Full stop. It's the only mission we were ever given, to go therefore and make disciples. Grant mentioned the Great Commission just a minute ago. That's our mission too. And so any time that we can work with an organization that just gets who we are, and we don't have to, sort of figure it out, is a win in my mind. So today is not just about giving, although that's something that we would encourage everyone to do today. We're not taking an offering for us today. The only time you're going to be asked about giving this morning is to consider partnering with Compassion through child sponsorship. That's it. But that's not all we're about this morning. What I want us to do this morning, what I'm hopeful that we'll do, is in some way we will grow. We will change our understanding of the relationship between who each one of us should be and generosity. And if you're not a follower of Jesus here, if you're not convinced, if you have questions and you have doubts, I want you to know it's okay. They're welcomed here, because there is a way in which we can begin to test the waters, to belong before we believe, to try some of the actions out of faith before faith becomes an important part of our life. I hope this morning that you'll give a chance to considering how generosity plays a role in who we should become. I have had a bit of a unique experience. If you don't know this, a couple of months ago, I traveled to the Dominican Republic with some of Compassion's team to learn about what they did. And I mentioned before that I think Compassion is a unique organization. Why? Well, because of the mantra that they have to make disciples, they go about things totally differently. Like, I also used to work for World Vision in between church jobs, okay? So I have a pretty decent overview of how, like, this whole child sponsorship thing works in different organizations. And when I took some kids to Nicaragua once, because I worked with the youth department, so when I took some youth to Nicaragua, everywhere we went was branded in World Vision orange. Everywhere we went, it was clear that the program was being run by World Vision. One of the things that struck me so deeply when I was in the Dominican was that I never saw Compassion's logo anywhere except the day that I visited their head office. And I think that gets a free pass, because people have got to know that you're going to Compassion's building, right? If you're there to visit the head office, they should probably tell you that it's their head office. In all of the programs that we visited, there was absolutely no Compassion branding at all. And you might say, well, why is that? Because Compassion's work isn't about them. Compassion's work is about empowering the local church to make disciples. Compassion seeks to come alongside church partners who have a passion for children and to say to them, we have some experience in this regard. We have some experience in helping the children that you know, the children whose families come to your church. We have some ability to help you understand how to move them from absolute abject poverty to a different existence. And they do that through the same change mechanisms that we explore here. And for that reason, there can be this beautiful two-way relationship between our church and the work that Compassion does and some of those churches. See, we can join them in helping others, and then they are going to help us become the disciples that we need to become as they teach us what global poverty looks like, right? Because if you don't know this, like, Jesus had a lot to say about justice, poverty, caring for widows and orphans. Like, this is central to the message of Jesus. And so as people who are at least exploring or open to the idea of exploring what it means to be a disciple, man, sometimes we just need some help. Because it's been my experience that sometimes we hear when we won the birth lottery, do you know what I mean? Like, you didn't do anything to be born in Canada. You just won the lottery globally, right? Like, we didn't do anything to be born here. I don't know exactly how human consciousness gets transmuted and transmitted into the life of an infant, but that infant whose consciousness, your consciousness was given to them, excuse me, I'm getting really ethereal here, and it's tongue-tying me, okay? Anyway, you didn't do anything to get here, right? We just are we're really fortunate. And we're so fortunate that sometimes, instead of actually like changing, what we can do is like just write a check and forget about it. Send it off to some other part of the world, feel pretty good about ourselves, pat ourselves on the back, but not actually have to change or grow through the process. And I think that my friends in the Dominican and other parts of the world where compassion works have something to teach us. And it's something that as I thought about this morning, and as I thought about the scriptures, these verses from Pastor Paul came to mind as he wrote to his friends in Corinth. This is what he said to them. And now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given to the Macedonian churches. Okay, so Paul is writing to Christians in Corinth, and Corinth isn't in Macedonia. Corinth is somewhere else. So Paul is relating a story about the Macedonian churches to these Christians in Corinth. It says, in the midst of very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up into rich generosity. For I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. They urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the Lord's people. Layla, can you take me back to verse 2, the second slide? Because this is what I really want to. In the midst of very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up into generosity. So what's going on here? So Paul is writing to these Corinthian Christians. The Macedonian churches, incidentally, you're familiar with those two. Paul wrote letters to the Philippians and to the Thessalonians. Okay, so those are the Macedonian churches, along with a couple other smaller ones that don't have letters written to them in the Bible. But that's the general area. And these severe trials that he's talking about are, first of all, the Macedonian part of the Roman Empire was just impoverished. It was just less well-to-do, than the Corinthians who Paul was writing to, okay? And so these already impoverished Macedonian Christians are under extreme pressure. Why? Because at the time, it wasn't popular to be a follower of Jesus in the Roman Empire. That came much later. But in this era, when these letters are being written, see, it was something you could be thrown in jail for. It was something you could be ostracized for socially. You could have your property taken away. And so for a bunch of people who are already pretty not well-to-do, you've got problem on top of problem. And yet, they have overflowing joy. Let me ask you a question. If you lost your house this afternoon, would overflowing joy be how you felt after you lost your house? Anytime soon-ish? Probably not, right? Like it's probably safe to say if any of us lost our house this afternoon, overflowing joy is a significant step away from our current experience. Yes? Right? That overflowing joy was what took me back the most as I traveled with compassion. I think we've got a quick video clip here. I want to show you one of the welcomes that I was given at one of the centers we visited. Oh, technology betrayed me. It's just a photo. Folks, let me teach you another lesson. This is bonus content this morning. Technology is wonderful until it betrays you, and it's always trying to betray you. Do not trust the AI, okay? Something's going to go bad, I use it all the time, but it's going to go bad. Okay, so what you were supposed to see here, this is actually a video that we capture, and this guy with the tambourine is leading all these kids and singing us this amazing song for us as we see them at the center. So keep in mind, this center is in the middle of a project where 100,000 families, 100,000 families live within 1 square kilometer. 100,000 impoverished families live within 1 square kilometer of that building that you can see. Okay? And we had the opportunity to go and visit houses that were right there. And I have never, ever been exposed to that level of poverty before. Can we go to the next slide, Layla? This is one of the houses I visited. This is a house, not a shed. This is somebody's house, okay? And all these white dots, all this stuff here, that's garbage. And this is a river that's almost as big as the Fraser, like a huge river. And notice, I can't tell you exactly, I think this is still water here. What is this, 20 feet from their back door? Okay, on a day when it hasn't rained much at all in the last couple of weeks. Notice how close that water is to that house. So what happens when it rains? It floods every single time. And yet somebody's made their home there. And here's the wild thing, okay? I went to visit this house because this house is the home for one of those kids that greeted me at their front door with singing and dancing. Do we not have something to learn from these people? Is there not a co-relationship in the disciple-making process that Jesus has asked us to do? Because we are so consumed as a people and as a society with the idea that our stuff will make us happy. That it's our things, if you're sad, go buy something new. We even have a term for it. It's called retail therapy. Right? You've heard this term before. You're laughing because you know it's a real thing. Retail therapy is that when we're sad, when our soul is hurt and broken, it's cool, just go to the mall and buy something. That'll fix it. Except it doesn't, because the hole comes back again and again and again. It isn't the stuff of life that's supposed to give us joy. And if anything has proven that to be true, it's meeting kids that can greet you at their front door with singing and dancing, invite you into their home, such as it is, offer you some snacks from the bag that we just brought from Compassion to give them. That's probably the most food they've seen in a month. And still be happy about it. Still be joyful about it. Their overflowing joy in the midst of extreme poverty still wells up into rich generosity. Friends, I think we need to learn some lessons from people like this. I think we all need some exposure to how the rest of the world lives. I think we all need the opportunity to figure out that, yes, in fact, you can be happy even when you don't have everything your soul desires, let alone everything you might just need for your day-to-day living. Just want to be aware of our time. That's what I long for our church. Hey, if you ask yourself, why are we doing this? Why is Compassion here today? I just think we have a gap in how we are making disciples currently. And there's an opportunity for us to grow and to learn through partnership. And it doesn't mean, notice I haven't said anything yet about like visiting and building things, right? Because I don't think the learning means for us to go and to be the great white hope for somebody else. If you ever want to read a great book on global poverty, pick up a book called When Helping Hurts. Okay? When Helping Hurts. It's an amazing book because our thinking needs to change around some of these ideas, right? And it's not that there's never a time and a space for us to go and to help somebody out by building something. That's true. But so often we want to go down and we want to build something and it makes us feel good, and then we come back and we don't think about like how else could that have gone? You know, my another house that we visited, this was the interior of it. And you notice all the rubble on the floor? That's because this house was just flooded too. It's almost in exactly the same kind of situation. It's a whole different neighborhood, but that river runs all the way through the area of the Dominican that we were in. And same situation, you know, they've got this house, and they showed me a picture of before, okay? It was actually quite a cute little house for what it was. Then the floods came, and it just absolutely decimated the house. And you know what my immediate thought was, my immediate response is, well, let's go fix it. I know some guys who could fix this house. You know, like I know that we have the expertise, the equipment, the gumption, and the hard work to go fix that house. Okay? But as I talked to the folks at Compassion about it, I was like, is that a possibility? They're like, actually, that would be less helpful than you think. I'm like, oh, can you explain that to me? They said, well, first of all, you would disrupt the lives of everybody within a square kilometer for the time that you were there, because you would be the attraction. Work would come to a grinding halt, right? And when you've got that many people in that small of an area. Plus, we have some security issues. I didn't take any pictures of this, but like a couple of times when we were getting toured around, we actually had security teams go with us, right? Because they were afraid that if we went on our own, even with the Compassion staff, that, you know, something might happen to us. And then there's the bigger issue of like, you know, the value of the work that needs to be done to fix that house to a tradesman who lives in that neighborhood is wild. So yeah, sure, we could go fix it. We've got the guys, we've got the resources. It's not going to cost much. But what Compassion would say is, work with us so that we can equip somebody locally who can go do the work. Then you boost the economy and you get the job done. Right? See, like sometimes there's nuance to this. There's a better way. What I think we can do, and one of the things that Compassion is getting ready to launch in the near future, I understand, is an opportunity for something called like an experience trip. Right? So something like what I did. So we would self-organize here and say, hey, we've sponsored a number of children in a certain area of the world. Every child sponsorship packet that you're going to see this morning is from a particular project or a couple of particular projects in Mexico City. As myself and the mission team have been focused on that project, plus another one that we might be able to do in tandem in the Mexico City region, or at least Mexico City and Colima, which is something we could just take a little puddle hopper and get over to Colima and do some work there as well. We'll tell you more about that one at a later date. But the opportunity for us to go down and for them to help us learn, to see what the rest of the world looks like, to actually put a face and a handshake to a name and a picture that we get in a packet, so that we can let our hearts get exposed to the things we need to be exposed to grow into the people that Jesus wants us to become. And friends, that's what it's all about. It's all about continuing the mission of Jesus to make disciples, because that, through the local church, as crazy as this sounds, because if you've been a part of church for long enough, you know that what I said earlier is true. None of them are perfect. They're all imperfect, this one included. And yet, I believe to the core of my being that it is the group of people that God calls together to change the world into the world as it should be. So imagine for a second churches that open their hearts up to the challenges of the rest of the world. Imagine those mutual relationships shape and form people. People who can serve and people who can give. And that those resources are then given into the hands of people with expertise and passion to be used to multiply joy and justice in the world. And all of a sudden we have a world, not just a couple of people living in ancient Macedonia, but a world that is overflowing with joy and welling up in generosity. This is the world the church has been called to build. This is the world we have an opportunity to help create. I'm going to invite Tim and Matt to come back. And they're going to share a little bit of their story as ambassadors and experts beyond the experiences that I've had, to lead us in a little bit more singing, to give us an opportunity to think about, is today a day when I would step in and partner with compassion to build the world we should be experiencing? A more joyful and generous world, friends, is something you can help create through partnership and sponsorship with compassion, and through an openness to letting your heart be moved and changed. Tim, will you share with us and lead again?